Welcome to Joe Brooks at the Helm, the podcast where we dive into the vibrant world of art, one artist at a time. I'm your host, Joe Brooks. I'll be talking with talented artists from all corners of the industry. We'll explore their unique journeys, uncover the stories behind their creativity, and learn about the experiences that have shaped their artistic paths. Whether you're an art enthusiast, an inspiring creative, or simply curious about the lives behind the masterpieces, you're in the right place. Join me as we navigate through the world of art, guided by the voices of those who live and breathe it. Okay, welcome Euan Roberts to Helm. How are you today, Euan?
I'm very good.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. We're surrounded by a couple of your pictures. If no one's familiar with Euan's work, we've got More Love here, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And we've got Euan's very sad, crying shark. Why is the shark crying, Euan?
So in that one, the shark is crying because I saw this video on Instagram and this shark had washed up on a beach. I think it was in America somewhere. It was a great white shark. And instead of helping it and like pulling it back into the sea, everyone was just taking photos of it. And this guy ran and kicked it. And he was like, yeah, I can take the shark. And it's like, mate, the shark is like dying on the beach and you're just trying to attack it.
I'm looking at that picture a little bit differently now.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a kind of, I don't know, some symbol because it's so close to where it needs to be. So close to the sea, it's natural habitat, but it's not quite there. But it's connected for its tears.
Oh.
And it's just got like a weird perspective. And yeah,
Sharks are very misunderstood, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
They very are.
Aren't we all?
Yes, I think we are. Right, Euan, we're going to talk about your art career to date. Obviously, you're an artist that's shown here in Helm in a couple of group shows, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be seeing you here hopefully next year on your own solo show, which we're all really excited about.
Yes.
So we're all big fans of Euan's work. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into art and where you kind of began your story. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was quite into art growing up as a kid. I liked drawing. I definitely wasn't that good at drawing. I wasn't the best in the class.
Said who?
Just being self-critical. My friend was the best. He was really good. We used to copy like Simpsons comics and stuff and the Beano.
And where did you go to school?
I went to Van High School.
Van Dien's here in Brighton.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good school at the time. I think it does a lot better now. And I think at the time there was a lot of like weird GCSEs that they just tried out. So there was one called Double Art that was like twice as much art and only 5 people did it. And me and my best mate did it and we would just sit there.
Did you do the same lesson twice?
Basically, yeah, it was really long. It was like nearly 2 hours.
Okay.
And the final assessment was you had to paint an allotment. And as like a 15-year-old kid, painting an allotment from memory is like probably one of the most boring things you could do.
Well, they didn't take you to the allotment. You just had to.
They did, and we did sketches there, and then you had to like.
It's not
make
that
a final
inspiring, is it?
piece.
Really, an allotment. Well, it depends who the gardener is, I suppose.
Yeah, I wasn't inspired, but we used to just try and make each other laugh and draw stupid stuff. And then fast forward, I went to college and I didn't know what to do, so everyone who was into art just did art foundation. And that was at City College Brighton. I don't know what it's called now. It's
called the Met.
Oh, cool.
It actually has a very good art foundation now.
Do they?
Yeah.
They should do like a Met Gala in Brighton there.
They should. Good idea, Euan.
Yeah.
TM. Okay.
And then
so you went to the Met.
Yeah, and then I did foundation. That was good. That was very kind of what you'd imagine from quite an experimental art course in Brighton. One thing I did was made a big shoe out of paper mache and then put it on my foot and stomped around on paper, like making prints.
Where's the shoe now? You still got the shoe?
I think it was just like thrown out. A lot of rubbish art was made. And then I went to art school in Manchester.
Okay.
Did illustration and animation.
That's quite a big jump from a paper mache shoe.
Yeah. At some point you had to try and focus on something. So you tried everything for 6 weeks. And then you specialized in something. But a lot of the people who I studied with, they've gone on to have like amazing careers in the arts.
Okay.
And at the time, we worked like sort of medium hard. Like no one was No one was too into it.
Who else were you on that course with?
So a friend of mine called Camilla Perkins, she's a painter. She shows in London. A guy called John Alexander Skelton, who's like a fashion designer now.
Yeah.
Grace Helmer, who's an illustrator. James Burgess, who worked for MTV doing like graphics and stuff. And at the time, we were just in this room, just making art, just making nonsense. And it's nice to see, looking back, that those people, what they were doing then kind of informed their practice and they carried on. I think that's a theme of like me and the stuff I'm into, is just like keeping going, making stuff.
Yeah.
No matter how slow you go, you just keep doing it and then you'll get somewhere eventually.
Yeah. Tenacious.
Yeah. And just not seeing it as a marathon, or not even a marathon. It's not even a race. It's just like, it's the way you're going to be forever. So just find a way to nurture it and keep it going.
But you knew from a very young age that you wanted to be an artist in some shape or form.
Yeah. I didn't know about the world of artists, like painting, having a studio practice, but I knew I wanted to do something creative, whatever that meant.
Yeah.
I nearly became a chef.
Did you?
Yeah.
You could have been the Brighton Bear.
I could have. I couldn't have dealt with that stress though, like the
Yeah.
intensity,
Yeah.
the lack of sunlight.
What made you stop from the chef?
So I did this like for a job, work experience. I was a chef at this hotel in Hove, and I really liked it because it was quite, I don't know, the guy he was quite old and he'd seen it all, and it was just like big knives and swearing and heat and shouting, and it was kind of like being on a pirate ship, I'd imagine. And then he was like, you have to either go to catering college for 3 years or something. And then he was like, are any of your mates into this? And I said, no. And he was like, are you going to do what your mates are going to do? And I said, probably.
Yeah.
Which was art foundation, just twat around for a bit. And then I thought, I couldn't really imagine myself in a kitchen.
I can't really imagine you in a kitchen.
I love cooking, but I'd be like, I'm going to go for a walk and then I need some fresh air. I need to relax. It's like, it's service and it's like mad stuff, but I love food. It's one of my favorite things ever.
Ah, don't we all? So you're in Manchester, and we had a little chat earlier about that it wasn't really what you expected, that foundation or that course. Would it be fair to say that?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of expectations because for me going to university it was more about the life experience, living somewhere else.
Yeah.
And putting off.
And Manchester was a big enough contrast to Brighton.
Yeah.
Were you born here in Brighton?
Yeah, I was born in Brighton.
Right.
Grew up here. So I wanted to go quite far away from home.
Because it did feel quite sheltered here, didn't it?
Yeah. And like you sort of know a lot of people if you grew up in a relatively small town. And I think for me, going away is really important because it meant I could change my identities. Like I never felt like I could be an artist here because
people knew you, or
I think it was just like a personal mental thing of like I never had the confidence. I didn't have my practice until I went elsewhere and kind of picked it up. And then I feel like a lot of it is the identity that you kind of create in your own head.
Yeah.
And then everything else affirms that. And when you're a young person, you have to, sometimes it's like geographically changing a location.
No, I get that.
To create and
find out who you really are.
Yeah.
You know, when sometimes you don't know until you live somewhere else.
No. And I feel like we constantly, as we get older, it's just like, it's unraveling. It's like unlearning stuff. It's not accumulating loads of new things. It's actually just going, let's just drop all the crap. Sounds quite like hippie woo-woo, but I think we just
not really.
We just got to release all the other shit because we have so much shit from our childhoods and growing up, and like we've got to unprogram all that.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. So when you left Manchester, did you feel like this is what I really want to do, or what was your first job outside of university?
So I got an illustration commission.
So you did illustration?
Yeah, I did illustration at uni. I tried really hard at the beginning. And then I sort of felt like this isn't really what I'm supposed to be doing.
So would you not recommend university as an artist?
I'd say it's such a contentious thing because
Well, it's a business now, isn't it? University's a business. I
yeah,
mean,
it's a big unforgiving business.
mm,
And if you've got, I'd always say like, depending what you want to do, like if you want to do graphic design, it's great because it's like,
it's practical.
yeah, it's that like level of not academic, but like rigor of like studying
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But like illustration is very trend driven, so a lot of it was like who can emulate the people getting all the commissions,
Mm.
who can rip off Oliver Jeffers the best was basically like my
Wow.
course. And it was
Yeah.
a lot of people whose style was just going like, okay, this is hot right now, let's just try and do that.
Yeah.
And then as a like young artist, I tried to rebel, so I made like what I thought was controversial work that was
In what way controversial?
like my final piece was, it was all these like black and white illustrations of people who have committed atrocities throughout history.
Was Saddam Hussein in there?
He was.
Excellent.
Can you guess any more?
Colonel Gaddafi?
Yep.
Quite like it. Yeah.
He had he had a little hat on.
Ayatollah Khomeini?
No, I don't know who that is.
Bit of an oversight there.
Oh, was that the Iranian?
Iranian.
Yeah.
He was quite bad.
Pol Pot was there.
Hitler, obviously.
Hitler. The point was, I wasn't just trying to be like controversial, but I wanted to make these like rendered drawings where I was studying each person and doing a portrait with like a lot of attention and detail, and then displaying them
As a group.
as a big group. And there was other people, there was like school shooters from America.
There's a lot to pack in that final piece.
Yeah. And that wasn't really suited to getting a job as like a children's
I
illustrator.
was going to say, if I was like headhunting, I'd go, the guy that's done the Hitler, what's his story?
Yeah, like that's not really going to make it into like a
brave
fun
though,
piece
very
about...
brave, very brave.
Yeah.
And good for you.
And then I was creating these layered images of, I did one of John Wayne Gacy, who's like a American serial killer. And there's this song by Sufjan Stevens about him. And there's this theory that he got hit in the head with a swing, like a metal swing when he was a kid.
It's kid swing.
Yeah, like in a park. And
Yeah.
it hit him in the head. And then
That
apparently it
disturbed him.
changed his personality a lot. So there was like a swing set. There was this like KFC, because he worked at KFC, and there was this clown outfit. And there were all these like layered images. So it was kind of like an imagined editorial piece about a serial killer.
I like the sound of this piece. Where is it now?
I don't know, they were like printed onto foam board, and then I just left everything at the uni.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot, doesn't it? People just kind of go and leave.
They
their
try so hard.
detritus. Yeah, they're trying so hard. They never want to see it again.
It's the thing of being an
Oh.
artist, you're basically constantly leaving a wake of stuff. Unless you work digitally, or like it's just bits, things, mess.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
Wow. Okay. So you left Manchester with some kind of illustration focus.
Yeah.
And then what happened then? Did you get a job? How did
And then I got a commission from I think it was a financial magazine or a website in Greece about the economic crash there. And I had to to draw all these pigs as bankers, and it was raining money, and it was all very like...
It's quite specific.
Yeah, quite direct. And I kept having to change the image, and I got really upset because I was like, it's perfect. And it was like...
Yeah, because I guess you've come from like doing what you think is good to suddenly being spat into the commercial world where they're like, no, could you do the pig in slightly different pink? Was it that kind of thing?
It was like, change the ears on this pig or the snout. And I just thought, this isn't me.
No.
This isn't... I've just graduated.
We're going back to the crying shark.
Yeah,
aren't we?
I'm the crying shark right now.
Yeah.
Which was fine. It was good learning that wasn't for me, because...
Yeah. But this is, it's kind of what we were saying though, isn't it? Is that some of these courses are not designed to build you into the real world. I mean, you're kind of cosseted, aren't you, with it saying, you know, yes, you can do whatever you want in your final piece. And then suddenly you're like faced with somebody paying money, hard cash, for something that you don't really want to do.
Yeah.
In the commercial kind of aspect of that. It must be a bit weird.
It is, because they just want you to graduate, I think, and then
Yeah, you
leave.
spat
And
out,
then,
aren't you? They're like, you've gone now. We're on to the next cohort. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I
if
get
there
it.
was any kind of, I don't know, security or connection, maybe you could email someone for the next year and just have like
Some kind of
touch in
backup.
and just be like, how you
Yeah.
doing? You're out
Yeah.
there now. But I
Did you
think,
feel kind of spat out or not?
yeah, I felt like, I don't know, because the student,
Sorry, anyone going to Manchester
yeah,
studying
it's
arts.
an amazing place, but I feel like the course I did, it didn't really care about making the next like group of illustrators or anything.
Yeah.
It was like one of you, two of you might be all right, but
But
of
we're
the
not
class
really
of
bothered.
30, like
Yeah.
ultimately you've paid your money, we're
Mm.
getting paid. And I think it was a lot of the lecturers being quite general, but their practice might have existed a long time ago and they're
Mm.
quite jaded or they've got their own set of problems. If I think that it should be way more open, and it should be like if you do art, you continue to experiment with all the different mediums
Mm.
and you don't pigeonhole into illustration, animation for 3 years. You just continue to be really open,
Yeah.
because years later, I get some illustration jobs now off the back of my art practice where
Mm.
it's it's kind of like just do what you want. We want to use your image, come up with something.
Mm.
And it's the perfect kind of brief now because it's really playful and it's not as,
Prescriptive.
yeah. And I think they it's because of I've got a portfolio, body of work they can
But
see.
they also get you now. They want to hire you because they like your art and they like what you're doing and they don't want you to change it.
Yeah.
Which I guess what they didn't really teach you when you came out of Manchester
Mm.
is that this might happen one day, but it might not. Yeah. Okay. So you leave Manchester, you dip your toe into illustration. Somebody tells you what to do with the pigs. You're thinking, this isn't for me,
Yeah.
correct?
Which they
Okay.
probably should have told me at the start.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not their fault. It was fine.
We like the Greeks. They're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So you finish that, and then where do you go next? Where does your career take you next?
So then I moved back to Brighton. I worked for Dave the Rave, which was my boss. Do you remember Hartley's wine? I don't know if they still exist. They were kind of like Threshers, but like a Sussex version.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was up St James's Street. And
In
I
Kemp Town
I had a part-time job there.
with Dave the Rave.
Dave the Rave was my boss. He wasn't management material, but he was quite an entertaining character to be around.
Sounds it.
And I used to draw the customers. You'd have to print the receipt for everything. Just put it. There was like a spare one, and I would get it and I would draw the customer from memory. And then I had all these receipts and I started scanning them and like coloring them in, and I put them on like a blog website. And that was the only thing I was doing creatively. But I think it was like a little gesture to myself, to saying like,
I'm still in there.
you're still in the game. Just keep doing something.
Yeah.
And when I look back, the way I constructed those images was quite similar to how I work now, like a lot of block color, quite simple.
So that was like you creating your early style, perhaps.
Yeah. And it was quite interesting because I think if you make work like that, then the inspiration is all around you. You just have to be listening and watching, and you just have to like try and be open and kind of say like, there's going to be amazing snippets of conversation and people. And I think being an artist is kind of like trying to stay open to that.
Yeah.
And not going like, oh, I'm going to wait for inspiration. It's like, I'm just going to drag whatever I've got and just kind of try and squeeze the inspiration out of that.
Yeah. So Dave the Rave, you carry on working with him, and then where did you go next?
And then I got a job at an art gallery, and that was my first real exposure to artists, like working in print primarily.
Okay. And commercially selling work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also through that job, I met a lot of artists. I interviewed them, got to know them.
That's when I first met you. I think you were interviewing various artists,
and I had
that
to
were
find
showing.
some new ones too.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So you kind of took the other role, which was the sort of the other side of the commercial world, which was the the sort of mining aspect rather than being an artist. Right?
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely. And I enjoyed doing that because artists, as you know, are very interesting people, quite hard to deal with sometimes,
They
quite
can be.
complex characters,
but
but also very like people who need nurturing, I think, because they give so much of themselves, their soul to making things. They can almost have blinkers on the rest of what's going on, particularly like the business side and like marketing and all the things that other people can help with.
Yeah.
But
They're not designed to do that, which is fine.
no, I think it's like a collaborative thing, and it's sort of it's sold as you're just in your little garret, starving, making stuff, waiting to be discovered. But it's almost the opposite. It's the act of generosity of sharing your work helps make those connections.
Yeah.
And then you find people like yourself and like Helm Gallery and like the good people in the art world who will see the artist and see the potential and the talent and help them basically tell their story.
And do you think doing that other side of the art business helped you now as somebody that just focuses on their own art to discover those kind of backstage elements that you probably wouldn't have seen?
Yeah, definitely. Just seeing how the journey from the artist to having an exhibition, how their work is presented, how it's made.
And how it's marketed.
Yeah.
Did it shock you in some of the ways that it was marketed, or?
What shocked me was what was quite interesting was meeting some artists who you could put on a very high pedestal and finding out that they actually have the same issues as like someone completely brand new, like the same insecurities, the same chaos, and also some of them it's not that they don't know what they're doing, but they're just kind of like they're like in the sea and they're going, I'm going to swim that way. I don't know what I'm going to get to, but it's like, we're just going to go. And there's no 5-year plan. There's not even a plan for like the next show. It's like, it's all just kind of coming
quite chaotic.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. But, that is an artist's life, isn't it? I suppose for some people. Yeah. And then after you sort of did that and you did your interview, who did you meet along the way? You think, oh, I really, really think they're amazing, or is there anybody that sort of stood out in that time?
Lucy Sparrow.
Yeah.
Because I remember being at shows with her and just connecting and just like chatting, and it's like, see, because working with an artist like on a show, it's kind of different to just rocking up at the opening night.
Oh, definitely.
And you see everything that's going on and how vulnerable they feel when all these people are turning up, they're doing interviews, they're getting put out there.
Yeah.
And like having that connection with someone and just like understanding like you'd much rather be at home just making more stuff.
Yeah. Than front facing.
Than doing this.
Although Lucy's got better at being front facing.
Oh, she's brilliant.
Yeah, she's incredible. She turns it on.
And she's one of those people who, like, she is her art. She is the brand. She's everything.
She embodies it.
She doesn't have to like turn it on, turn it off. And it's like, it's an amazing thing. Like just the hours of work and drive to do any of those shows. And I think that's what people don't really see is it's like anything. Like if you're like a boxer, people go and watch you fight on the night, but
yeah, and it's like 25 minutes, but there's like 5 years preparation for a really short space
there's
of time.
the blood, sweat and tears that go into that. And then so Miranda July says being an artist is grind, ta-da.
Yeah.
And then it's grind, ta-da.
End.
And it's like, it's really quite intense doing that because you're like,
I think a lot of people don't realise as well is that when you actually open a show, and a solo show in particular, you're so exhausted from the whole build up that the last thing you want to do is actually see anyone or talk to anyone. I mean, it happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where people are just like, oh, I don't know if I can actually go. I do know some artists that don't even go to their private views. They just are literally, they can't even look at the work because they've looked at it so much that they're like, we're just going to stay in the pub.
I always think that's quite cool as well.
It's sort of like both ways.
I like to see the people reacting with your work and standing in front of it. And
yeah. So what made you go back then to your actual practice and finding where you actually thought, you know what, I'm comfortable doing this, which is painting?
Yeah. I think...
Was there like a sort of moment that you thought, maybe I should focus on me here and not other people?
Yeah. A big part of it was meeting my partner, Ruth.
Yeah. who I believe you're getting married to.
We are indeed, yeah, in just under 2 weeks.
Congrats from us.
Thank you. Meeting her, having like, because the time we've been together and my art practice are almost like the same. It will be 10 years next year we've been together, and 10 years of painting next November.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So they're definitely connected. I mean, there's
for sure.
no doubt in my mind that they're connected.
It's not like, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
But I think
she obviously encouraged you.
Yeah, she encouraged me, and I was living in this Guardian property that was like basically like a squat where you
What
have
do
to
you mean
pay.
by Guardian property?
So in London they had like empty buildings you'd pay to live in there,
Okay.
and it was quite precarious because they would only have to give you like 2 weeks notice and you'd have to move out.
So it's basically a squat.
Yeah. So you're paying to stop the building getting squatted by people. It's kind of like gentrified squatting.
Yes.
And it's really useful, but it's also, you look back and the conditions that you're living in and paying someone to live there,
it's actually quite
it's just
brutal.
like atrocious. Like, it was disgusting.
No running water, or
there was running water. So it was on Greek Street. It was opposite the Pillars of Hercules, that little like cutaway road, Manette Street. And it was, so we were there about 18 months.
Gosh.
And I think it was owned by Seaview at some point. So it was like people who'd get out of prison, or I think they turn 18 and they would live there until they found them like more permanent accommodation. So it wasn't really set up for people to live there long term. Like, there was like carpet in the bathrooms and those showers where you have to press a button and it's just red hot scalding.
Oh my God.
I think my parents came once and they were like, this is upsetting.
This is not what we had in mind for you.
Yeah. But I lived there with quite a few mates. And
I mean, amazing. I mean, they always say location.
Yeah, we were W1, we were Westminster.
Yeah, you were in the zone.
They took out the bins twice a day, and we would sit outside and we get to know the police who did the little beat around there. We'd know everyone in Soho. We used to go to what's it called? It's like on Greek Street on the corner, Cafe Bohème.
Yes,
we got this card for 50% off everything because we lived there.
Amazing.
So we used to go there and just like drink and eat chips and sit outside.
Great chips in Cafe Bohème.
Really good.
Yeah.
And they do like a picture of beer and you'd think you're in Paris. It's very sophisticated.
It does feel like Paris there, doesn't it, actually? Yeah.
It's one of the best spots in Soho, I think, just to people watch.
Yeah.
We'd see what's his name? Steve McQueen. He used to go to Maison Berthaud and have meetings with people, and he'd have like this Louis Vuitton like laptop case and a massive scarf and like beautiful glasses, and he'd just be sweeping through Soho. And we used to think, oh, he's so cool.
Alexander McQueen?
No, Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
And I don't know what he was working on. I tried to work out because he must
have been... Maybe a film.
Yeah, one of his films. And we used to see other people outside the Groucho and stuff. But we would just walk around of an evening, like all night. We'd get these giant £1.50 beers from Tesco's. Just walk the streets. But it was when I started painting because I had space. Like,
so you started painting back in that kind of, we won't call it a squat.
That shit
off. It's a W1 location. Your central London.
Yeah, our gentrified squat that we were paying the pleasure of living there. And sometimes there was rats nearby or sewage. But when you were like 24, and also I worked around the corner, so it was 2 minutes to the gallery.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to pay any transport during the week. It was fine.
Sounds ideal.
Yeah. But it was so gross because it was like the worst air quality in London because of Oxford Street.
Yeah.
And we used to get like black soot on the windowsills. And they used to say the air quality was worse than Delhi, where we were. And Delhi was like the worst in the world at the time. And we were like, great.
Great. We've arrived.
Lucky we've got young lungs.
So you started painting in that, and you used the space and the location and to get back into it.
We started putting on shows and stuff there too. Like, I lived with this guy called Ash who was, he was like the first person who ever bought my art for £10 in Brighton when I was living here. He was at Sussex Uni. I met him at, I think it was at the Joker or the pub down there, the Eagle.
Yeah.
he bought a print off me for a tenner that I made on my day off. And I was like, this can
Yes.
get me a beer and a half. Like, this is insane.
Yeah. Did you feel like Vincent van Gogh with his little knapsack?
I did. I felt like if I can just make some more stuff, I can make another £10 and then.
And get more pictures of beer at Cafe Bajan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And we put on shows and stuff and sold little bits, and it was basically just parties, and it was a really good time because we were both working full time.
Your face has changed now. You're talking about this time in your life.
It was really good.
Yeah.
It was quite a stressful time, but
also a lot of fun.
Yeah, we were just trying to do stuff on no budget.
Yeah, and those are the best things, I think. I totally agree with you. When you're driving and striving with nothing, you always produce your best work.
Yeah,
it's so weird, but true.
Definitely. Yeah. And those people, like some of the other artists we were showing, have got like amazing careers. Like my friend Reese, who I met when I worked in a gallery, he used to come in, and you can tell when it's an artist because they'll get so close to a painting, and they'll look at the sides.
They want to see exactly,
and they'll see the brush stroke and be like, oh, I know that's like gold and acrylic.
Yeah.
And now he's huge in Asia. Like he sells so much stuff there, and he's been a friend since day one. These people who we just met randomly start doing stuff, and it's nice.
There you go. So then you started selling bigger works, or you started charging more money, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah.
And now you own your own gallery, don't you, in Hastings? Is that right?
Yeah. So we opened that 2021. So it'll be 3 years.
So you moved out of the heady, smoggy heights of West 1.
Yeah.
Down to Hastings.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a bit of fresh air.
Bit of fresh sea air.
Yeah.
It's nice to be back by the sea in Sussex. And
yeah. And what kind of people do you show in your gallery?
So we work with. So we started the gallery.
What's the name of the gallery? It's very rude.
So it's called Big Yin Gallery.
And this shouts back to your heritage, which is
Scottish, Bajan. So in 2020, I think, at the height of COVID, when George Floyd was murdered in America, there was like the Black Lives Matter resurgence. And you must remember, like, everyone was posting like the black square.
Yep, I do.
And a lot of artists of color were asked to do stuff. It was kind of like the responsibility to share, like, artists of color was like put on me and other people. And I had all these offers, and I said no to most of the things because it was like, why are you asking me to find you all these like 10 black artists or write all these captions? And I kind of knew that this is a very performative moment where people, the gallery world, the established artists, art galleries, they don't actually care. They're just tick boxing. They're just showing.
Well, they had to level up, and they all knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 4 years later, like most of them haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But I've always had like a DIY spirit, I guess, through skateboarding, growing up, just doing your own thing and just working it out. And we saw the space, and we thought, how many black-owned galleries are there in the UK? We could find like less than 10. And I just thought I would rather do something myself than help other people to look good.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for you. Yeah.
So I kind of said no to most things. I did this one job with Facebook because they set up this black-owned business directory in America. So it was for black-owned bookshops, and I had to come up with this illustration of someone reading a book. And that was quite interesting because I basically didn't do any like illustration work, and then just got like one of the biggest companies in the world, and it was like
suddenly was interested.
Yeah. And that was quite validating for me because it was on the back of like the art that I'd been making.
Yeah. So they chose one of your existing illustrations, or they'd seen your style and thought, that's who we want.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And then I've done a few more similar things since then. And I think that was something that was never explained at art school, was that if you just create your own visual language, that some people that's so true to yourself, they'll just go, oh, can we use you to do this? Can you promote this or sell this?
They want your expression for them. Yeah. What is the significance of the bear? Because I know they feature quite a lot in your work, don't they?
The bear, yeah. So the bear was born, not really born, but like
hatched
hatched from the creative egg in Brighton when, before we moved to Hastings, we were staying at my parents and we were viewing loads of properties and going back and forth. Because we were both self-employed, it was really hard to rent. It was ridiculous. Like, so many people were turning us down because Ruth had started her company like that year. So it was maybe like March, February of 2020. She'd started a company at Christmas time. And anyway, we were going back and forth, and my parents had some friends around, and I was sat upstairs, and I was like, I just can't bother to speak to them. And I felt like it's weird when you hang out with your parents, you go back in time to like the previous age.
You definitely do. Yeah.
And if you live with them even for a couple of weeks, it can be quite dangerous.
You regress.
Yeah.
Into your old ways.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm sitting up here. I'm basically hiding.
I won't be putting my socks away, and I'm going to sit up here. Yeah. No, I get it.
And I drew this bear hiding behind a tree. That was kind of like how I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just like the head, the ears poking out, and it was like that. And then,
I'm here, but I'm not really here.
Yeah, it's like, please don't make me chat right now. Maybe because I was working or something, but that's where the bear came from. And then I just kept doing it, and I kept putting it in different scenarios, and now it's one of the most popular motifs. But it was weird because it was just something that I did quite off the cuff, and then like anything good, I think it's like just kind of run with it. And now it's fun because there's a whole universe like in my head that these characters exist in. And it's just fun seeing what I can do with them, like where I can take it.
Fantastic.
But some people say, ask is the bear me.
Is it?
It's not, no. It's also kind of like, it is an emblem of some feelings I have as like a person of color in the art world, where representation like isn't as high as like other industries or other places. And it's kind of like, I'm quite tall. I kind of take up a lot of physical mass.
You're a big lad.
Yeah, I'm a big boy. And it's kind of like that. It's kind of saying like, this is something that's not going to hide. This is like, this character exists. And someone asked me what type of bear it is. And I don't know much about bears, but it's a sun bear crossed with a North American black bear.
Aren't sun bears Asian?
Yeah, they're quite small, but they have like,
I've seen a sun bear in a zoo.
Like snout.
It's very sad.
Oh,
yeah,
that's sad. What was it? Was it all right? Or
not really? But carry on with your story.
Because they're quite like human. Like when you see them, they kind of move. They stand up on their back legs and they reach for stuff quite slowly.
Bit like that one.
Yeah.
Why is he wearing a hat?
I don't know. I just liked the graphic device of having a little hat. One of my favorite ones is a print that I did and a painting where it's sat on a sofa and it's just a bear and the hat is next to it. And that was during lockdown where we were all stuck at home. And I imagine the bear, like everyone's freaking out and the bear's just sat really patiently, just waiting for everything to stop.
Yeah.
It's almost like meditating, like it's not watching BBC News and Boris Johnson and all these lies. It's just like,
just
using it as a moment of calm.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Euan. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.